Lab. Welcome, welcome. I am here with Mr. Grimfield Defense himself, the Quick Draw 3457. How are you, Quick Draw?
Good. Happy Tuesday, JT.
Happy Tuesday indeed. Um, yeah, we have a really fun topic teed up for this evening. I am excited. We've kind of touched on it for a number of weeks here, but this is going to be when we actually get to dig into it and roll around in the topic and share some of our thinking going into this event that we'll be talking about and some other cool stuff and nuggets. So very excited to talk about it. Very excited to talk about it.
Yep.
Um,
The Doppelgänger, finally. We've been playing this for 3.5 weeks now in the format. And I think we've been shying away from talking about it for probably a few reasons. Secrecy maybe being one, but we can't avoid it this week because we're playing against each other uh, in the event. We're each 3-0 at the moment, sitting atop the standings. So
mhm.
we figured what better time than now to talk about this.
What better time than now? Yeah, usually the best of friends and now bitter frenemies, as it were. And as luck would have it, or as I don't know, as we conspired to make it happen, you and I, Quick Draw, have to duke it out. Not just any old teammates, but there our listeners' lovely co-hosts this evening.
Usually we play a casual, friendly game Tuesday after the show, after the discussion. Tonight it's going to be pretty cutthroat. So we're going to be playing half of our Doppelganger match for the Swindle team event. We'll tell you why it's only half later. Um, we've had a lot of fun with this joke for the entire season so far, but it'll be good. Before we get into the discussion on Doppelganger, though, let's talk about I guess, the elephant in the room, so to speak. The Keyforge celebration last weekend, huge
Hmm.
event. I don't know the count of players, but I saw pictures of a very full room of people joyously playing Keyforge together. None of us could make it, sadly, but it looked like an awesome event.
It really did. Super jealous. Wish I had great stories to share, but all I have is FOMO. That the lingering taste of FOMO at this point.
Yeah, we saw the top 8 decks from the Archon event were all totally fire. A lot of them very recognizable names if you've been playing online competitively for the last couple of years. Um, the Sealed event, we heard a lot about Winds of Exchange. I don't know if I saw any decks. It's kind of hard to share Winds of Exchange decks at the moment. They cannot be registered yet, so there's not really an easy way of sharing them online. But some really cool cards. I am extremely excited for Winds of Exchange. Like the stuff that I've seen from it, like it just looks very strong. It looks like it's very decision heavy, which is great. Like that's one of the things I loved about Dark Tidings. And as much as I love Dark Tidings, I have to say that I think this set really builds on it. Like it captures all of the decision making and complexity that I loved about Dark Tidings, but I think it definitely, from what I could see, ups the power level as well. I think there's going to be some pretty strong decks out of Winds of Exchange.
Wow, that is some high praise coming from you. I don't think.
I haven't
Well,
seen the whole set, so I could be just making stuff up right now.
yeah, our longtime listeners will know exactly how high praise that is. Quick Draw famously a lover of Dark Tidings, so to put it kind of
You-
on that level. Hmm.
I've heard Whirlpool is in Winds of Exchange,
Oh,
so it can't be that bad.
well then. We've got Whirlpool and we've got Quixelstone and we've got tokens, so what's not to like, right?
Yeah, something for everybody.
Something for everybody. Yeah, JDG's happy, you're happy, and if I get my Maverick Heart of the or Legacy Maverick Heart of the Forest, I don't know. I'll be in good shape too.
Yeah. Speaking of that, there is a creature. I've heard this, and this is all secondhand still. I'm pretty sure this is verified. There's a creature in Equidon that every time it appears in your deck, it's a rare creature. It brings with it 2 or 3 Legacy Maverick artifacts with it. So it's it looks insane. I forget the name of the creature. I can probably pull it up. Ultimo Fox put together a really nice spreadsheet of the Winds of Exchange cards,
Hmm.
um, which I will need to peruse for a minute to find this card that I'm looking for. But it looked fantastic, and it just having that possibility of having all those Legacy Maverick artifacts just really gets you like your wheels turning about like some of the possibilities in this set. So really excited to pull that guy if I can find his name. Um, Someone else maybe in the chat, if anyone's watching right now, could probably tell me faster than it would take me to look it up here. But uh, yeah, JT, talk about something interesting while I find this.
Oh yeah, no worries. The thing that I'm most curious about while we're on the Winds of Exchange topic and kind of waxing on stuff we know very little about relative to all the folks who were there, um, is what the story on efficiency is going to be. Right? Are we going to be rethinking efficiency in terms of token generation or some other metric, or is another house going to pick up the slack on traditional kind of notions of efficiency? Um, so that's kind of the
Yeah,
question mark for me, and on whether we just won't need it and have some other I don't know. There'll be a different big dog in the room, as it were.
at first I thought that Equidon might offer that efficiency, but I was kind of just seeing like the old Tinker was one of the first cards spoiled, and it was the after reap, discard a card from your hand, draw a card. But other than that, I don't think I've seen a ton of efficiency. So, um, you know, maybe that's a good thing. We'll see how it works out. I'm a little, skeptical of if you take away all the efficiency, then do games become more draw dependent? I'm hoping that they, you know, kind of level it out so that it's more fair efficiency as opposed to find everything you need whenever you want it, logos efficiency.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I found the creature. It is Antiquities Dealer. It is a 3 power creature. Action gain 2 if you control at least one artifact. And I heard he brings with him at least 2, sometimes 3 um, legacy artifacts. And since it's Equidon, those artifacts by default are Legacy Maverick.
Very nice, very nice. Well, that sounds super cool. And I guess
Yeah.
actually, now that you say the name, you could have said any name, and I wouldn't have been able to call it your bluff. But
I it, it took me like 3 minutes, but I came up with a good name for this fake card I made up.
yeah, it sounds believable. It sounds really believable. I like it. Cool.
Um, yeah, so if you went to Keyforge Celebration, let us know if you think my hot take of the set is wrong. I'd love to hear what your thoughts about the set were and just the experience in general. Um, like you said, lots of FOMO happening in the Sloppy Lab.
Hmm. Yes, we're distilling our FOMO in the sloppy lab. It's consuming all the centrifuges at the moment. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, I don't know. Cool. Well,
Um,
that's that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's that. The only announcement we had, I kind of already spoiled. Our teams, Sloppy Lab Work and Sloppier Lab Work, are currently the only 3-0-0 teams in the Swindle team event left. It's like 19 teams, I think, are in this, and 21 teams. And it's not like your regular Swiss where you cut the number of undefeateds in half each round because you have ties in this format as well. So um, only 2 teams after 3 rounds are undefeated, 3-0, no ties, and that's your team and my team. So um, unfortunately, we can't keep that going because we're going to duke it out later.
Sloppy fight. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, normally we'd be just be tooting our own horn and kind of boasting a little bit right now, but this is actually apropos our topic for the evening, because we're going to be talking at length on the Doppelgänger format, and that's kind of where we're headed. So very relevant, and yeah, looking forward to where it goes, and also to the first half of our own match. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I guess we should just say that our teammates played the first match last night to a 1-1 tie. So you and I have to play, and then I think not tonight and JDG play later in the week,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe next week. I think we have an extended week this week.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we talk about what the format is, how it works, what are the rules, how it was set up, and what did Karen do to create this?
Yeah, let's. So at its premise, right? We'll link in the show notes to this description, this page that the folks in Streamland are seeing right now. But at its core, the idea is you bring a couple decks. So quick draw, you bring 2 decks. I bring 2 decks. Every player on each team brings 2 decks. And the tournament organizer, Karen and the good folks at Swindle, as well as her team, have built this magical machine that is going to produce 100 similar decks to the ones that you bring. So 200, right? 100 for each of the decks. And those have been published. They're published at the start of the event. I'm showing them now. Now? Yes. So big old spreadsheet, all the decks kind of listed out here for all of the decks that were registered in the event. And at the start of each round, before you and I play, before you play your opponent, you're going to randomly choose one of the 100 decks for a match, right? So you'll say, okay, I'm playing deck number 1 today among the 2 that I brought. Please randomly choose one of the 100 doppelgangers that were generated for you to play, and we'll duke it out, and then we'll switch. So you'll play a random one of the 100 doppelgangers for one of the decks I brought. Yes. Make sense?
Yeah, so you might be wondering, how do you find similar decks? What does similar decks mean? And the, uh, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Not equation,
Algorithm.
formula,
Yeah.
algorithm. Thank you. A word that we should all be very familiar with Keyforge.
Indeed.
The algorithm that they made finds decks that have similar arc values, but it's not just the arc values, it's everything that is in the spider chart minus the artifact control is the only thing they did not duplicate for the doppelgangers. Reason being was that they didn't want you to bring a deck that abuses artifacts and does not have artifact control. So they wanted the chance to someone to randomly get artifact control against you, so you couldn't be certain to not face against artifact control. Everything else, though, all comes from the spider chart. So that is like expected amber, amber control. I'm just going to pull up a spider chart because I'm not going to remember all of them. Expected amber, amber control, creature control, effective power, creature protection, disruption, efficiency, and recursion. So all of those things contribute. I think other, I believe, also contributes, but other is not in the spider chart. So other, is kind of like the wild card. I think one of our teammates, Crusader, has a deck with 3 mimicries, and the other value in that deck is like 10. And I just like always wondered, like, what does that mean for their opponent? Because like other is such a vague category on DOK. I think it duplicates other as well, but I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah, not 100% either, and not 100% on the relative weightings for some of these things. And then we should also mention that in addition to each of these categories, the overall SAS, I believe, of the deck is also factored in to the
Yeah.
things that are generated. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's within a standard deviation or two, or however they define that, but they're all pretty close in SAS value is the important thing. Now, I am going to talk a bit later about some exceptions to that, and some things that we've observed through playing this and analyzing all of the doppelgangers that we have. But in general, you can consider the SAS values to be pretty close, within like 3 to 4 SAS points of whatever deck you're playing. Last point to mention is about the scoring. So since it is a 3-player team, you're playing 2 matches per player. You have the possibility of tying. So the scoring is weighted to favor players that get a 2-0 win. So if you get a 2-0 win, that scores as a 3-0. If you get a 1-1 tie, it scores as 1 point for each player. And then if you lose 0-2, obviously you get 0 points. So if all 3 players on your team tie, then you'll tie with your opponent 3-3 that round, and it's scored in the standings as a tie. If one person wins, they get a 3-0, the other 2 tie, and it ends up as a 5-2 score. So, and so on like that. I think it's a really cool format for a team like this because you don't have to play an odd number. Ties are okay. We talked about a similar thing with Newton whenever it was the Swindle team event for Newton. I thought it was also a great format for a team event with Newton because ties are okay. Like people think ties are such a bad thing, but you know what? Like, I think it's a great team format, and it encourages you to take some risks and try to go for the wins when you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm generally of the opinion that ties are not a bad thing for Keyforge. Great for even round robin style events. Obviously awkward for anytime you're trying to build a bracket or make a draw of that sort. But for team events, even for individual events that are more round robin-y in kind of their nature, I mean, sometimes a tie is just a really appropriate result for a matchup. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if I understand correctly, you had somewhat of a hand in creating this. So, like, what was your role early on with Karen?
Oh, that is a generous characterization, and Karen was very nice to give me a shout out in the docs here. So I was not involved with any of the magic really that went in. I helped in pulling together some of the data that was used. So effectively pulling together kind of the list of decks with all the stats and what have you. DOK itself does publish some of these things, but they're out of date, or at least haven't been keeping up with some of the more recently. Maybe that'll change now that kind of the KeyForge engine is back up and running. But yeah, we wanted some more recent data, more recent decks. I don't even know if any of the kind of data dumps that have been published by DOK have dark tidings in them, for example. Just not even sure. But we wanted kind of as recent as fresh data as we could get. So I pulled that together, but no insight into the algorithm or how doppelgangers were decided on, that sort of a thing.
Yeah, and you were kind of kept in the dark as far as like how it was going to work and what the rules were. Were you just there for like the data dump?
Yeah, exactly. Happily kept in the dark.
So,
Yeah.
so she just used you, is what you're saying, right?
Absolutely.
With pleasure.
With pleasure. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
all right. So, what was your first instinct when you heard about the format? Like, what what was your reaction to it?
Yeah. I thought it was interesting and bold, and I was very curious to see how the matchups would play out. I could very easily imagine a world where you had difficulty generating kind of fair matchups or even matchups, and there were lots of one-sided results, or it would be very easy to game the system. Um, so that was one worry. I wasn't kind of sure how that would play out, but very interested in the idea, and also increasingly interested in formats that cater to an online environment. With kind of some of the IRL engine picking back up, so kind of really interested to see that envelope getting pushed. But yeah, really curious to see how the matchups would play out, and uh, also curious to see how uh, if kind of folks at large would be able to wrap their head around what the format was trying to do, or not, right? And so I think those were kind of things I was curious to see how it would play out. So those are my initial reactions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had similar thoughts. I actually just first want to say like I really appreciated what you said about doing something that's online as opposed to the IRL. I hadn't thought of that before, and this is really cool. Like obviously this is a format you can't play in real life. Um, and it's really awesome that we have these events that we play online that are so unique like this. I hope they don't go away. Like I hope that we still keep this like online only type of formats that makes this even more unique to play online and gives it a real distinction from playing IRL. So that's a very cool point. I hadn't thought about that. Um, I had a similar instinct with it. I definitely thought about ways to abuse it. And I was thinking of certain strategies right away. It was like the first thing I tried to think of was how do you abuse it? Like combo was the first thing that came to my mind. And I definitely thought it would be very difficult to balance. I thought we would see the main deck winning most of the matches. I thought it'd be very hard for doppelgangers to win. Um, and maybe the most impressive thing so far after 3 weeks is how many doppelganger wins we have seen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's been really crazy to see it play out. Um, my team and your team, obviously, we've had success, but like we've seen doppelgangers win a lot of games. We've seen games be like extremely close and competitive, way more than I thought they would be. Um, and I think that's just a huge testament to like the way that it was pulled off. Like the concept and the execution of it was just really amazing. I think, when I was looking at the arc values and everything that was copied, most people I think feel that like the expected amber and the amber control and the creature control really give decks their identity. But I actually think that what makes these doppelgangers so good, like when we play these, they're remarkably similar. Like they really have the same feel. Like when you're playing against another one. And I think a lot of that actually might come from like the effective power and some
Hmm.
of these other stats that you don't really think about very much because they really measure, like how big are your creatures, how much creature control do you have minus your creature power, and like how big are your creatures normally. That kind of stuff I think makes a big difference in how the deck feels. Um, in addition to like the efficiency and the other stats that you're more commonly seeing, but I think it's some of the ones under the hood that really like make this format shine, like kind of unsung heroes with it. Um, it's just been really cool to see, you know, playing some, especially like AoE decks that you have, and seeing the doppelgangers. They look and feel almost exactly the same, even if they have a different house, even if they're from a different set. It's just super cool. I can't say enough good things about that. Like that was a total surprise for me.
Yeah, I think I was when first browsing through the list of 100 doppelgangers that were published for each of my decks. I was really struck with how many similarities there were, at least on paper, right? And even in how they played. We did some practice matches with those too, um, and it was impressive. It was really impressive. And the matches, the practice matches that we've played, and maybe we'll talk about this more, but feel a lot like you'd almost hope like a balanced sealed would feel. Like you could imagine picking random fun deck from your collection. This is something Nuts Knight and I have talked about a fair bit, but random deck from your collection that you enjoy, maybe finding a doppelganger for it, and it's almost like you're in this like this magically balanced sealed environment, where there's not going to be a blowout, and just super cool, super cool. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so we were talking about how to abuse it and what you thought of as far as strategy. I think the
hmm
first thing I mentioned I thought of was combo. I don't really have any good Jenka decks, so that I kind of ruled combo out. I have another combo deck that's kind of hard to pull off, and I didn't really want to risk, you know, that being so difficult and hard to pull off. But we see a lot of other combos in this format. Like Green Wasp has the tributes and
hmm
the Six Sempers, I think it is. So you see like these mini combos like that of things that just work really well together, are very consistent to pull off. And that can make a huge swing in this game. Like just pulling off a tribute Six Semper or a double tribute, double Six Semper, like it could be the difference in a game. So I think those kind of combos still they still work in this format, but they're not like you know, locked games locked up in the bag kind of thing. But they do, I think, take advantage of the format a bit.
hmm Yeah, interesting to kind of dig into some of where we went with the decks that we chose, and how we were hoping they might take advantage of the doppelganger generation. I certainly went that mini combo route with Green Wasp. This is a Worlds Collide deck with double tribute, double Six Semper. Has a couple pterodactyls in there with power of fires as well. So these are probably the best power of fires ever printed, at least the best power of fires that I've ever seen. So you're very often, getting to forge and then pulling off six amber from your opponent by powering down a pterodactyl, which is super cool. And the tributes and six tempers line up fairly easily with the logos efficiency that the deck brings. But that said, I don't think the combo itself is really represented in the deck stats, and that's kind of what drove me to it, right? So this tribute six ember is generating amber very effectively, whereas the deck itself is only boasting 13 expected amber, right? So on paper it looks very slow, not terribly bursty, which is not entirely the case with that double tribute, double six ember, and even the Imperial Forge is a live card in this deck to be making a cheaty key. So on
Yeah,
paper it looks 56 effective power, but I mean you've got big dinos, big Brobnar dudes. So it packs a board presence, but doesn't pop off the page with effective power. It generates amber well, but does not have high expected amber, largely due to some of these interactions. So yeah, this was kind of an attempt to take advantage of the format a little bit. Only played it once so far, though. But yeah.
yeah. And then your brother ST Russell has a triple binate rupture, double interdimensional graph deck, which is like we talk about combo decks. Like there you go. And he's had a lot of success with that so far, right? Like he's only lost one game, I believe, and that
hmm
was last night against my teammate Behawk in a really cool game. Um, but I think it definitely takes advantage of the format. Like when you're playing this, you can expect to be up against some scaling amber control, but not to the level that triple binate double graft is. Very difficult deck to play against. So I can see why he chose that one as well. Um, It's an 81 SAS, which is on the high end, and I'll talk about that whenever we get to Macro Bell and my decks in a
Hmm.
bit. But the other deck I wanted to highlight about, you were talking about the tributes kind of in the Sixth Emperor having some hidden expected amber value, and it reminded me of JDG's deck he's playing, which is, I don't know if you have it up. Sorry to put you on the spot there. Um, he has a Quixel deck with Exile and like Amphora Captura, tons of capturing. And I was looking at the Eric values on his deck, and his Exile in that deck is worth like 1.5 E. But like with Amphora, like that card is getting you like 10 probably, unless they have some counterplay to it, like a Scudam. And he was playing in his Doppelgänger match. Here it is, Chandra the Probably Complex, and he played the Doppelgänger. Um, I think he played the Doppelganger first, or he played whatever it was. But both of the decks had Exile in both of the matches. And the first game that I saw, like I looked at his opponent's Exile, and I was like, man, his Exile was only getting like 1.5 E in this deck. Like that's crazy. And then they switched decks, and he played Chandra, which also had an Exile, and it was the same thing. It was like, oh my god, like this is another way. If you really looked deep into it, you could have probably abused the format in a way of finding cards that are sort of properly rated. And like the Exile in this deck is worth way more than 1.5.
Hmm.
If you find that kind of stuff, then the arc values in your deck could be underinflated, or sorry, just like underrated. And that could be a good path to go if you have a number of cards that you feel are underrated by DOK, um, that aren't really represented in the total arc values.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Some kind of similar ideas are apply if you'd kind of think about what you would bring to a SASCAP event, say, trying to find these decks that are under these cards or decks that are underrated, undervalued in some way. Do you feel like uh, they can shine? Though I almost want to say, I feel like Doppelganger has done a better job than just like that's too weak a statement. Like Doppelganger has done a better job of kind of even the playing field. I want to say than 65 SAS cap, right? Like
Yeah,
like that's
absolutely.
been my feeling anyway. Yeah. Um, and Chandra the probably complex. I think we can say Chandra is definitely complex, not
Yeah,
probably
it,
complex.
it is definitely
It is
complex. I
definitely
watch him play
complex.
that deck. It's if you guys ever get a chance, if he's ever playing it on a stream somewhere, just like watch that because like I just can't say enough things about watching JDG play that deck. It's so much fun. Like he just gets in these corners where you think like he's never going to get out of this, and then he often gets out of it. And you look at some of the discards he makes and like the creatures and the way he orders it. Like it's an art to watch him play that deck. It's such a cool deck.
Hmm. Yeah, a magical deck to be sure. But cool to note too that so this is a Quixel Stone deck. It has the Quixel Stone. It has um, an animator and a transporter platform. So very cool that you can animate an artifact, then use Amphora Captura to start capturing onto it and effectively remove that amber. But the fact that it's a Quixel Stone deck, you know, you roll in against random opponent on TCO competitive with Quixel Stone, there's a decent chance they don't have artifact control and are hoping to play creatures, and you just kind of roll over them. Whereas in Doppelganger, Chandra only has 12 creatures, and the nature of the algorithm, is very likely to give you pairings which also don't bring a ton of creatures, right? So you're not likely to just get a free win because hey, I've got 17 pips in Quixel Stone, but you can't keep up on expected amber. Um, so some of that
Yeah.
gets normalized away, which is really cool.
His game last week was just a unbelievable game. He got behind really early. It was the very last game of our match. So if he had won the game with Chandra, then our team would have won the round. And if he had lost with Chandra, then it would have been a tie, I believe. So I felt it was a pretty big game. We wanted to keep our record. And he goes behind in the game, and like you said, he's playing against the Doppelganger of Chandra, which is a deck that is totally fine with Quixelstone for the most part. Low creature count, high expected amber, and he gets behind like 2-0, I think it was. And he eventually used his animator on the Quixelstone and then used the bouncing Death Quark on it and just unloaded creatures. turning point in the game for him. It allowed him to capture a lot more. His opponent's deck didn't have a ton of amber control, or sorry, creature control for creatures that had amber on them, so it was very hard for him to fight them off. And it was just a very slow, methodical comeback till he won 3-2. But I don't know. I think he said he's never really had to play it like that before, where he's like, "Oh yeah, sweet, Crystal Stone is great. I'm going to play it out. It's going to be wonderful." And then halfway through the game, he's like, "Oh crap, this was a mistake. I need to destroy my Crystal Stone." But he pivoted, and it was awesome. Like, just really cool to see like the two sides of that. The Crystal Stone and against a twin essentially that
Hmm.
was taking advantage of it more than he was.
Hmm. Not Tonight brought a deck that's in a similar category, a Zuba, which has the sting and can do very very nasty things with the sting and lots of key cheats.
But
So
Tonight had another deck. I thought she only owned Rector. I
um,
literally I don't know if I've ever seen her play a game. Uh, I've seen her play like two other decks maybe. So I don't know Azuba. I just had to pull it up right now.
Zuba is very cool deck. I saw her play it a fair bit in different SASCAP events like minors, and then also she played it in um, I'm blanking on the name of the previous kind of swindle event where it was a race to the race to sub 60. Um, and so,
Oh, yeah. Saz Climb.
yes, the ladder, the climb. I am blanking on the name. Apologize, but yeah, a great deck, a great lower SAS deck to kind of slay monsters, because you can drop the sting, let them forge, and then hit your key
Yeah.
cheats with the recursion in the deck multiple times. Super cool to see another kind of magical deck. Um, mhm.
Yeah, I have a similar one to Azuba. It's a much higher SAS. It's a very strong deck. Playing the Sting with a couple of key cheats is pretty wicked.
Very wicked. Um, super cool. Super cool. Um, cool.
Yeah, so I kind of only talked about a couple of the ways that I thought about this format and approaching it. I haven't talked about what I settled on and why. And I'm pretty happy with how it's worked out. And I like the way that I chose to attack it, which was not really about combo, but it was actually about creature control. Um, I picked decks that really enjoy having a board that really don't want to play against creature control. So these two are two of my favorites. Macro Bell being an 88 SAS obviously is pretty spicy. Southgott is a Curia deck with tons of capture, um, very little creature control. The two Radiant Truth in there account for most of the creature control, which is actually quite amazing in this.
Hmm.
Um, but it also has some efficiency. It has ways to stall with Effervescent Principle and the Triple Faust. But the biggest combo it has is the Equalize and Spirit's Way, which if you combo that with Curiosaurus, means that you're just going to get a bunch of amber and they're not going to get anything. Um, so it is able to stall enough to find the combo. It has like good efficiency with things like Daughter and Howling Pit. Um, Not very much archiving at all, I don't think, just the QMax. But it builds up a board. It captures amber all around it. It's facing a deck that can't handle those creatures, and it just takes its time and reaps out, and then kind of grinds the game. And it takes a very long time to play it, but it's worked out really good for me in this format. I think I'm currently 3-0 with it. Um, so the creature control, I think, to me is what I settled on, and I'm pretty happy that I did. I don't know. I saw you have in your two decks, you have that mini combo that we talked about, and you
Hmm.
also have one that's a low creature control as well. Did you have the same thought process with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Denizag, I talked about this deck in our kind of pet decks episode way back when we brought Crusader on. But it falls into that category. It is highly efficient. Doesn't have amazing creatures, but is great at spamming creatures. So it can use that Logos efficiency, drop a whole bunch of Logos dudes, and against decks that are kind of in the same power level, that's a reasonable threat, right? Like, okay, here's 6 Logos dudes. Maybe one of them is a Sutterkin. I'm also archiving with Librarian. You'll have to kind of deal with that as a first order of business. Otherwise, kind of reaping out with my Logos dudes is a fine plan. Um, and Meanwhile, it has this kind of life for a life Brend action going on, which really flies under the radar in terms of amber control when combined with the recursion that's in the deck. So you have this logo sufficiency archiving, right? 3-1 on the archiving, got librarian, researcher, Hexbion, um, and recursion in the form of Nepenthe Seed, Regrowth, and Gravid Cycle. So really not that difficult to assemble Brand in Life for Life multiple times. And in a pinch, you can put the Way of the Porcupine on an opposing creature to give Brand something
Nice.
profitable to fight into, which is kind of fun. But
That is fun. Very clever.
but yeah, very often this humble Brand is achieving more than the 1.5 amber control attributed to it. And I think I always kind of say, well, more and more, a lesson that Not Tonight has taught me is never turn your deck back on a deck with a key cheat. So
That's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
so this one Chota, again combined with the regrowths and the burst potential, can make for a very potent endgame with some decent reach. So yeah, really leveraging that creature control, trying to establish a big board as an initial threat, and then leaning on some of the kind of mini combos that are in there and maybe not well represented by the stats. But definitely with this
Yeah.
deck, the board control was the stat I was trying to kind of abuse or take advantage of, if you will.
Yeah, this one kind of touches on all the points then. It kind of brings it all together. You have the low creature control, you have the mini combos, and you have some underrated cards like the Bren there that
Mhm.
all kind of add up to this being a good choice for Doppelganger. What is your record with each of these so far?
So great question. So I think we should reveal ourselves for the tryhards that we are. Initially, like, the first thing we did once the decks were released, right? We made tags, DOK tags, with all of the doppels for each of our decks in it, right? So I have a tag on DOK with, that's not it. Yes, this one. This one is the other one. So here are all the 100 doppelgangers for Danazag in contention. And I kind of looked through this list and said, wow, maybe this is going to be kind of some uphill battles or some fights that are much more fair than I was hoping for, which was a surprise. I was really thinking that Danazag was going to maybe prey on the format a little bit. Does not seem to be the case. I've played it twice. So twice I've played Danazag, once I've played Green Wasp. Both the decks have won both times, but they were close games, particularly with the Danazag. So very close
Yeah,
matches. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so like the first deck we see there for one of Denizag's twins is 8.9 creature control, which is you might think a lot higher than what Denizag has. And I think this is a symptom of some decks having, a very rare value in these stats that's hard to doppelgang, hard to duplicate. And I think a 4.7, I think it was, for your creature control is
Mm-hmm.
pretty low. It's probably hard to find decks that have that low of creature control that also match all of the other stats. So naturally, you're going to see some variation in the stats for these decks that are like the outlier values and some of this stuff. So I think for the most part, we've seen like very good matches, matches meaning stat matches for across the two decks. But there's definitely going to be some exceptions. Um, and you know, Macro Bell in my list, I haven't played it yet, and there's a very good reason for that, and it's related to this of trying to find hard to find matches with the stats. I brought it as a deck that loves to have a giant board of mutants and triple Torado and just drawing everything, having your deck in hand basically, and it's got 5.5 creature control, which is just abysmally low. And you sent the tag for all of the doppelgangers for it, and I looked it over, and I was noticing that everything had higher creature control. Some had as high as like a 14 creature control, and I can beat 14 creature controls with it, but it's a little uncomfortable. And so as I was going through this, I started to realize more things about this format. Is that first of all, it's like we said, it's SAS adjusted, so it's not just going to look at the ERC values. It's going to also try to find things that are pretty close in SAS to what you're playing. So you can't just pick a high SAS deck and assume that all of the doppelgangers are going to be a little bit lower. It won't work like that. Also, being that it's so hard to find an 88 SAS deck with no creature control, you end up with a ton of doppelgangers that have a lot more creature control, since creature control is one of those stats that's kind of inflates SAS on DOK. So as I looked through this, there was just a lot more creature control in here than I expected and that I wanted. And I don't know if I'm going to play Macro Bell at all this season, for that reason. I think Southgard is just like it's too safe of a play that I just don't know if I can bring myself to play Macro Bell in this format, even though it's one of my two decks.
You're setting me up for the switcheroo. I like your style. I appreciate that.
We've joked about it all week, how I'm just like setting you up for this. We're talking about Southgard all the time. You and Not Tonight probably played like 30 games against the Southgard doppelgangers, and then sure enough, here I am gonna
I will
do the
tell
old
you.
switcheroo.
I will tell you truthfully. We have practiced both. We've practiced both. Mm-hmm.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
talk about tryhards, man.
Super tryhards. Not even ashamed.
I, I'm also not ashamed to say that I have not practiced a single match against doppelgangers.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think my teammates have either, B-Hawk and JDG. Um, but I appreciate the hustle.
You know, it's a fine line between hustle or an excuse to play a game with a friend and teammate. You know, you just kind of take the excuse and interesting matchups. Um, so yeah, but I'll go with the try hard as well. I'll wear that bearing it proudly.
Um, so th my choice of not to play Macro Bell, probably not the rest of the way. It got me thinking like what's the benefit for me playing that? It's not like I could, if I'm the third player to play in my team and I know I just need a tie or, I know I need a win. I know like what I need going into it. You might think that like that could give you an advantage. You play differently, but as far as deck choice, I don't think there's an advantage. I don't think there's a strategy to choosing one over the other. Am I wrong here? Like, give me a reason to want to play Macro Bell after everything I've told you about it.
The matchups will be over much more quickly.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. I played a game a couple weeks ago with Southgod against the Doppelganger, and there were five effervescent principles between the two decks.
Hmm.
I loved it. But it was just like, yeah, you're right. We made so many jokes about how long these games take, and they don't get old. It's so funny. But
Hmm.
other than that, strategically, like I can't think of a reason why I have this great deck in this format in Southgod. Why would I move away from it?
It's a great question. I certainly do think, once you've looked at the doppelgangers that have been generated and you have a decent sense for, where you have more favorable matchups, it probably does make the sense for the majority of the time to always play the one with more favorable matchups, right? The one exception I could think of is, I mean, and this is really stretching, but if you happen to know that your opponent, is doesn't like dark tidings or something, or doesn't like playing logos or something like that, right? Then maybe you lean into that a little bit. But really, I think the reason why we have two decks is because it gave folks a couple levers to play with and then see what worked. Um, so I don't see these two decks as an intent to like, oh, maybe you'll flip flop, and maybe you will. Maybe a lot of folks kind of came in and said, I'm going to bring my two favorite decks and just kind of alternate and have fun, and that's cool. That's totally cool. But if you
Yeah.
came in saying, I brought in two different decks that are going to try to give me an edge in different ways, and then I'm going to go with the one that gave me more of an edge most of the time, then that's cool too.
Think I could see myself switching if JDG and B-Hawk either both win or both lose before I even play.
Hmm.
That way that I know, like, well, this doesn't technically affect our record because it's already been decided one way or another. But the problem with that is that I'm always so enthusiastic about playing my games early that I almost always play first among our team. So I don't think that's going to happen yet. Um, do you think that a future iteration of this format would benefit from saying you have to change decks every round or something like that, like force you to play both of them?
Hmm.
Or do you think that the agency and the player is better?
That's a good question. I like having the choice, but I mean I could see it going either way. I could see it being, you bring one deck once we're kind of confident in the things that get generated, and then maybe halfway through you have an opportunity to change if it is really not working out. I could see the alternation being enforced. I could also see a world where the doppelganger lists are not public, and maybe you bring a new deck every round, right? Or it's up to you what deck to bring every round.
And you
And
could just drop it into a website, click a button, and here's the doppelgangers.
or something that would be pretty cool too.
That, that would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wonder what Karen has planned.
Some cool stuff cooking. I'm sure those folks at Swindle, they're always cooking up some cool stuff.
They're always thinking outside the box. Like they came up with the underdog format, which I was watching them stream a few weeks ago. It was
Mm-hmm.
really interesting. I would love to see that kind of developed and adopted for an online tournament if it hasn't already been. So yeah, they're definitely always thinking. I like that. Um, One other thing I noticed in the standings, if you could pull up the standings again,
Mm-hmm.
this is kind of just a funny quirk, maybe. Maybe coincidence, maybe not. But the two teams that the Final Swindle brought, Final Swindle Alpha and Final Swindle Omega, are two of the three teams that are currently 0-0 and 3, all ties. And I wonder if maybe like we could have Karen, fill us in sometime on her thoughts on how that's played out. I think she's on one of those teams. Um, I wonder like what is that a coincidence or did they like kind of think about the format in a different way as the creators of it and kind of strategize something that has kind of just resulted in all ties?
Hmm. It's interesting. I mean, still early. Three rounds. I mean, hard to say. Hard to say. Maybe they are being very gracious and sporting and try not to run away with the format of their creation. Could also be could also be a thing. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Hard to say.
I thought that was interesting. Yeah, might just be a coincidence.
Going with coincidence.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, you had mentioned that you guys have done some practicing,
Mm-hmm.
and you pointed out an interesting stat to me earlier about how those practice matches have gone. Speaking of like the balance of the format, right?
Yeah. 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 Hats off to Not Tonight for bringing this to kind of my attention too before we got on here tonight. But uh, we have done practice games for this, and it's not exhaustive. It's kind of like let's get a sense for what the decks are. We're not trying to cover a percentage of the doppelgangers or anything. Just really like don't want to walk in cold and have no idea what the opposing decks are trying to do. Um, and in those games, the results have been almost 2-1 in favor of the doppelgangers. So really seeing, and these are tight games though, but actually coming out in favor of the doppelgangers at almost a rate of 2-1. So really cool. Uh,
Yeah.
and that on
A
top
high win
of
rate.
a high win rate for sure. And then that kind of paired with the fact that we actually only lost our first doppelganger match in real play this week. So you mentioned that we have a partial result of 1-1, but that's actually two doppelganger wins as opposed to two non-doppelganger wins. So very cool
Yeah.
to see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, totally against what I expected. Like I said, I envisioned this format being very difficult to win with a doppelganger, but we've seen, almost the opposite of that in practice. Um, even JDG or sorry, B-Hawk and ST Russell last night both won with doppelgangers. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and they both brought decks that are very good for this format. So eh, this format is resulting in close games. There is definitely player agency in the game um, to make up the margin and the difference. Like it's been really good. Hopefully, we have a similar game to that coming up next.
Another doppelganger win. Oh no, wait. Which one are we playing? My deck, right?
I think we do want a doppelganger win. That's what we're rooting for next. Yeah.
Next time. Next time. Next time.
Are you ready to play, or is there any other topics in here? Any other discussion
Hmm.
points we didn't talk about?
I think that largely covers it. So why don't you hit us with that closing line, and then we'll switch on over to for the podcast folks, hit us with that closing line, and
Uh,
we'll switch on to the game.
do we have a closing line yet? We're still working on that, aren't we?
We'll go with that.
Sure. We're still waiting for some creative folks to jump in the chat or like send us a private message to, give us something funny to say or at least clever. But after 12 and a half episodes, we still don't have that.
Hmm.
Um, but we're gonna play your deck of your choice versus the Doppelganger, I believe. Is that right?
Hmm. And you know, all the times that I've played Denizag, it was when I was the last person and the match was already decided. So it was like, I'll play the deck that has quicker matchups and is maybe a little bit more enjoyable on both sides. But we are not in that situation. You're going to get the grind fest of doom. So I'm going to play Green Wasp, which I believe is my doppelganger or my deck number 2. Deck number 2.
Yes. All right. So the reason we decided to just play with JT's deck first is because of Southgott and the joke about how these games sometimes take an hour, and we both have a bedtime, so we are gonna go with the deck that is slightly less slow. Um, but you were playing deck 2 in the sheet, so I'm gonna roll the dice. I'm gonna roll it over in the Swindle team event channel. Um,
Ooh, I think I might have a poly thing in the stream here. Let's see.
oh, in the I don't know if I trust your algorithm for your dice. You could
Oh,
have rigged them.
oh, look at that. You
That's a
could.
D2.
I
All
was
right.
just
So
verifying
I can
proof of
roll that
work.
too?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, I'll roll my D100 in the chat. 89.
Ooh, an auspicious number.
Let's see. So deck number 2, deck number 89. I like to just double check. So I'll pull it up, you pull it up, make sure we're looking at the same thing.
Hmm.
It's going to be in Chinese, isn't it? Okay. Bailey of Georgia Bank. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. I almost wanted to say Bailey of Jar Jar Binks, but Jar Jar Bank. Yes.
All the effort we went to avoid playing my deck with 2 effervescent principles, and we ended up going with 3 effervescent principles. Um, Fantastic.
three, not just 3 effervescent principles, but 3 effervescent principles and 3 Lomir flame fists. Ugh, miasma.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh man. Are you
All
ready for
right.
this?
I am ready for this. I've practiced this matchup already.
You have? No, you haven't.
No, I have not. Have not.
Oh, okay. That would be something else.
That would be funny. All right. I'm going to
All
turn
right.
off my screen share
Yep. Please do.
and then
All
adjust
right. So I
the
can't cheat.
video.
Confirmed. All right. Do you want to start the game?
I will start the game.
All right. I'm going to have to pull up this deck in my other window as well.
Password is sloppy.
Guess what? I'm waiting for. I think I
Not
said this
Dennis.
last week too, but I'm still waiting for the day that someone joins the game before me, since everyone knows the password.
All right. I almost pulled up Denizag out of habit. Um, I've tried so hard not to make this be my I don't know, my deck, but it's becoming it more and more.
All right. Let's see. Just preparing myself so I know what these decks are.
Yeah, let's look at
All
Bailey
right.
here. Pair of this and pull it up side by side with Green Wasp.
Yeah, both Brobnar. Okay. One thing we've noticed is that it's almost impossible to avoid Logos if you bring a Logos deck, right? Because there's really no houses that offer the efficiency that Logos does.
Ah,
So if you see a higher efficiency, you're probably going to be up against Logos.
this is actually a point I wanted to hit when we were doing the discussion portion that I neglected, but something I really liked about looking through these doppelgangers was how much some of these stats actually capture the essence of the houses or the sets, right? Like Denizag's Denizag's doppelgangers are almost uniformly Logos and Untamed, right? 100 Logos decks amongst the doppelgangers, so 100 out of 100, and then 95 of the 100 have Untamed. So this is by
Yeah.
overwhelmingly an Untamed Logos X pool, and that's because of the efficiency and recursion, I believe, right? So
Yeah.
especially at such a low rating, getting to 15 efficiency, 7.8 recursion is just super tough to do outside of those houses, and kind of gives you a peek into the kind of essence of those houses and what they do well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm just looking at Southcott's 100 doppelgangers, and of the 100, there are 71 logos and 75 Saurian. So most of the decks match two of the houses. So pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And we didn't talk about this either, but I kind of do feel at this point that that disruption and other, we talked about a little bit with respect to other, are kind of like third rail stats. Um, Particularly with disruption, I've seen decks get into trouble where, I mean, if you have a high, that high disruption count, and you're just like, okay, another three, like control the weak deck. You're like, what's gonna happen? I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just really difficult to
Yeah.
navigate, or can be.
Yeah, for sure. I do love disruption decks. Now in Stereo and I, huge fans of disruption.
I do love them. Yeah,
Uh,
the doppelgangers can be
all
spicy.
right. Yeah. Did I get disconnected or have you not started the game yet?
I have not started the game. Too busy gabbing. All right,
Okay.
starting it
Yeah.
up.
Just making sure. Good
Good
luck. Have fun.
good luck. Have fun.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going first. That's always good, unless this is your starting hand.
Hmm. An interesting start. Going to pull
Okay.
this up as well.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think I'm sending this one back, unfortunately. Okay. That's a hand.
Yeah. Okay. Just play a Nexus. That's it.
Nexus is a card. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. Let's get the vapors going. Hmm. Options. Let's tuck that one away and throw down this dude.
Hmm. Okay. This is an awkward turn. Let's go Logos. Just a Neuro Siphon. Phase shift for Banner.
Ooh.
And I'm gonna just discard the EP. Think I've got a
Sorry.
few more coming
you
soon.
got you got plenty.
Um, yeah, I'll probably draw two more here. Uh, all right, sure, let's burn the other phase shift for the bad penny, I guess.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, wish I could have played the phase shift to discard it, but alas.
Okay, let's head into Brobnar. Not take the archives. We'll slam the Nexus and discard some of this other Brobnar stuff.
Some junk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's definitely go Shadows. Put the Dusk Runner on the bad penny while I can. Poison Wave, get rid of her, and a Carla Phantom.
Very cool.
I like this Banner of Battle. I don't know
That
if I have any decks with Banner of Battle.
banner is really cool. So you've got your Carlo Phantom with your one artifact already out. I guess I can live with
Yep.
that.
Yep. You just leave him alone. He's totally not going to do anything harmful to you ever.
Yeah. All right, let's go into Logos. Throw that one down. Reap here. And burn my Imperial Forge. Okay.
Mm-mm. Okay. All right. Don't gotta worry about that now. That's good.
Hmm.
Really wish I could kill the bibliophile, but I would rather play Mother. 6 power Mother too.
That is big. All right, well, back into Logos seems pretty good. Let us draw.
Yeah.
Reap with the Quant. I think we're going to use an Axiom here.
Oh, very nice.
Toss the Guardian down. Protecting Bibliophile and Quant. And don't think you have any sneaky reaps coming, but let's say the Brobnar peeps
Oh,
ain't reaping.
brutal. Good call. Great call. Definitely gonna go into Brobnar anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna punch that stupid bibliophile.
Mm-hmm.
Play down some big beefy giants here.
That is very cool. Yeah, super cool. Now wishing I had my Axiom, you know?
Well, hey, you could have kept my mother on the board.
I could have. Hmm. Gonna make some dudes. Discard this volcano. Seemed like not a great play.
Yeah, it usually isn't, is it?
Usually is not. Usually is not.
All right, so I like that I have bigger creatures than you. That's a good thing for now. Um, all right. You've got the tribute, and you've got the power of fire left, I think. Yeah, all right. It's not that much. It's a pretty limited set of amber control, I think. I mean, you have a lot of duplicates, but
Mm-hmm.
um, let's go shadows. Let's put out a Magda,
Cool.
shadow self next to the Magda. 10 power shadow self.
Wowza.
And let's nerve blast. Let's see here. Let's do it on. Ooh, that's a tough one. Put on the troll.
Hmm. Okay, interesting. Setting up for the coward's end, perhaps. I like it.
You're so perceptive.
Yeah. This is an awkward spot, though. Okay, I guess we go. Hmm. guess we go Logos. Not taking the archives. Play the Tau Tau. Gonna toss a thing in our archives. Tough call. Tough call. Reap. And a reap.
I'm not too pleased that you have barely played any Saurian yet. That's going to be nasty.
Tossing an amber there. Preventing the Brobnar reaps. On your next turn. And we're going to eat the Shadow Self with the 6 Emperor.
Okay.
Which maybe ill-advised. We'll see. Would have been left with the
All right,
Champions Challenge, but
that's 1/6 Semper down. That's good. All right. And you drew just 2 cards, so not too bad. And you've got 1 on the Pocket Universe. Really wish I could reap with Brobnar. All right, let's go Shadows, and let's just take the avenue that I have here. Ghostly Hand, Miasma, and a reap.
Oof.
Always be checking, is what they say.
That's what they say. Pretty good. Okay, interesting. Putting me in the tank a little bit here. I like it. Still have that Champions Challenge coming. Still have that Coward's End unaccounted for. Don't love that either. But we're definitely going Brobnar. Definitely not taking our archives. Two Flame Fists down. Making a big old Mog Hunter.
All right. That is a big Mog Hunter.
Fights here. Kills off almost. With a little help from a hasty Cowfine.
Ooh, there is a ganger. That's unfortunate.
Reaps to 6. Plays this one. Discards the Power of Fire. And end our turn. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good turn. Um, Remember that time I said I was going to draw my effervescent principles?
They're in there. They're in there somewhere.
All right, we'll go Brobnar.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Gonna reap. Gonna war drummer. Gonna champions challenge.
Okay. Take some cards. Sounds good.
And then I wish you'd have gained one more because I got that Lomir back on the war drummer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're going to leave one on the pocket universe. Seems
Probably
good.
smart. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Southcutt does a similar thing with the monument to Shrix.
Yeah.
Um, it takes advantage of the EPs and then it just keeps stacking amber on the monument and never using it because you get to the end of the game and you have like four on it, and then you EP yourself twice down to like two amber and you can still forge.
Yep. Yep. And yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Much more valuable on it there than not at the moment. Hmm. Very interesting. I think we're going to go logos here. We're not taking our archives. We're going to play a scientific hack. Toss that amber on the pocket universe. Throw down jar goggle and another bibliophile. And prevent your Brobnar peeps from the reaps, as it were.
All right. Um, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you've only got one more logos left somewhere. Uh, that's really annoying.
I will take that as a compliment.
Yeah, gonna just check again. I know I'm gonna be facing all of the tribute, all of the six semper. I don't think there's anything I can do about that now. Hmm. All right.
Discards an EP. So either relying on drawing the third or already have it in hand. Interesting. Okay, I like that. Yeah, definitely counting on me hitting that tribute six semper on this turn. So fairly certain you've got another EP coming, but I think I have to stop your check regardless. And that is my tool of the moment. So let's play a pterodactyl.
Mm-hmm.
Let us indeed throw some amber onto it. Let's reclaim that amber. Toss down the library. Can have another pterodactyl. Thero wearing the Scudam, and I think it makes sense to use the hack now to toss another amber here. Rather not be at 7. Do you have more Flame Fists coming? 1. Only 1 in
Always.
discard. Yeah, always. So 1 more Flame Fist. Definitely Effervescent is coming, and we will stop those Logos creatures, or I guess that Logos creature, which is not going to fight, from reaping. Okay, very good.
Awesome. It's really cool. I discarded the EP and thinking I'm surely going to draw some more Amber Control, and every card in my deck is my remaining Amber Control.
Oh, geez.
Remarkable. Um, all right, so I think I'm going to just reap here. I don't think I mind him dying, so let's Coward's End. Let's Grenade Snib, Pingle Who Annoys, and Unguarded Camp, which is not enough to take you off check.
I don't love burning the Pocket Universe
Terrible.
Amber, but okay.
Terrible. That's, yeah, not drawing anything there, I think, is going to kill me.
Yeah, that was an unfortunate draw for sure. Back into Logos, replay the hack, toss more on the universe, and I mean, okay, Barabnar Bros, let's not reap.
Sure.
Sure.
2, okay. Yeah, this is bad. It's real bad. What do you do with a graft and an EP when your opponent has 2 keys and 0 amber?
And it's super awkward when your archiving is 1 archivist. Yeah.
Man, that Seismo Tankler has been really brutal.
It is an unsung hero for these grindy games, right? These like role player artifacts really doing a lot of work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything better there.
No, it's legit. And I think we go into Brobnar, take our archives. Ditch this stuff. Hold those for the moment.
Still can't check you. Just gonna play a bunch of cards for nothing. Barely missed that Key of Darkness. Ugh. Nasty.
Into Logos we go. Let's draw some cards. Okay. Toss another one there. Humble Bibliophile. And we'll stop this Brobnar Bro from reaping. Sorry, Flame Fist.
Yep. Poor guy.
Poor
All
guy.
right.
Poor guy.
Let's go Shadows. Poison Wave. Get rid of that guy right away.
That's a check.
Yeah, it is, for what that's worth.
Yeah.
I know there's a tribute to Six Semper already waiting.
Sounds so resigned.
Yeah. I just needed the graft. I think if I had the EP and the graft early, before you stack a bunch of amber on the Pocket Universe, it gives me a chance. very little worse than your graft being at the bottom of your deck. It's like the one card you need a little bit earlier than that.
That puts 4. That puts me out of EP range. Still get flame fisted, but it's not enough. Yeah, we're gonna use it. Toss this here.
Hmm.
Prevent the flame fist reap to steal. So 1 flame fist takes me to 5, and I forge with the universe. You would need 2 EPs. Okay, I think we hold that there.
All right. Logos, EP,
Mm-hmm.
graft, bat drone, phase shift, and punch in the face of the Narth. GG.
GG, good game.
Oh, good game. Yeah, my losing streak against you continues.
We should have played your match tonight if the mojo is leaning that way.
Uh, maybe I should have, but maybe that would have been the exact thing I didn't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I had some weird hands early, like my mulligan hand. I ended up just playing the Nexus, and then I ended up having 4 logos, 2 phase shifts, and an EP, and then the only cards I could play were the banner and the bad penny. So like one of the worst 4 logos hands I've ever seen, especially if you consider that I had 2 phase shifts,
Yeah,
because I didn't even want to play the penny.
yeah. The like double face shift, double helper bot hands can sometimes be awkward. You're like, I'm leaving value on the table. Feels bad.
Yeah.
Um,
I was super close. The turn you killed a couple of those flame fists, I had the war drummer in hand, and I could
mm,
have pulled them both back to hand, um, had you bursted. So, yeah, you removed everything just at the right time. The Magda, the Lomir, and then you only went to 6 anyway. So, um, yeah, I was stuck a few times when you were in check when I had no amber control in my hand. So, not even like one of the 3 EPs that we talked about.
mm-hmm. Yeah, dodging that third EP was huge, and getting the pocket universe rolling relatively early was super big too. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And then I ended up holding my Champion's Challenge for a turn after I played the Coward's End, or maybe it was vice versa. I had both in hand at the same time, which is obviously counterproductive. But I was afraid of the Saurian board coming down, the big creatures, and I wanted a way to handle them.
Mm-hmm.
Although I guess looking at your list now, your 6 Emperors usually handle your pterodactyls themselves.
Yeah, really
Yeah.
interesting
Could-
the how problematic the banner of battle was.
Yeah. It it actually was pretty cool in here. I think that card's coming back in Winds of Exchange.
All right, on.
Yeah,
Interesting.
like I said, I'd never played with it before, but I thought it definitely made me feel like, all right, some of these creatures are actually like pretty solid. Like Magda at 5 power, elusive.
Hmm.
I can get behind that.
Yeah, the Magda took a little bit extra to deal with, and even some of the Brobnar creatures that were suddenly larger than my Brobnar creatures, and I had to dig for, like, there was a turn where the turn where I fought into Magda, I had the Tribute in 6 Ember in a hand or archives, I don't recall, but just did not have the creatures to be able to deal with it, or to be able
Yeah,
to 6 Ember my own. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It is excuse me, it is in Winds of Exchange, which is pretty exciting. Brobnar is going to be so much fun. That's
mm-hmm.
it. Can't wait.
Very cool. Very cool. Well,
Well, yeah, I felt like I had a good start there, but 3-1 makes it look not very close.
the big swings with the Tribute 6 Ember combo, and not having the Ember control to punish it when it went off. I mean, yeah, is how it went.
Yeah.
I maybe played the Axiom too early first time through the deck, and should have held it.
Mm, no, I don't know. That was good. That hurt a lot. to lose the Logos. I only had one Logos in hand, but I was actually probably going to go Logos the next turn anyway,
Mhm.
um, just to play down a Bat Drone and to archive a Lomir, just get a couple reaps in. So yeah, I wasn't happy to see that um, take out the mother that early.
Mhm. Yeah, getting rid of the efficiency, the archivist, and the mother seemed like a priority. I did end up having to be a little scrappy to deal with some of your larger creatures later, but I
Hmm.
guess that's good old
Made it
NARP.
work.
Good old NARP is good for something.
The Ganger Chieftain is what did it. The Ganger Chieftain on the Fire Spitter.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was going to get away with you not killing the Magda yet, um, which would have been pretty big, but the Fire Spitter was able to deal with her.
The Brobner in this deck does fit in very very nicely. You often want a large body to throw to Power of Fire or to Six Emperor onto, tribute onto, and then
Yeah.
Six Emperor. And I mean, building up your Gravel Guts, boosting Gron Nine Toes plays into Power of Fire. Even Fire Breath, you can toss Fire Breath on a Titan Guardian and then Power of Fire it to draw and pull down some Amber, which is
Oh,
like really fun.
nice. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good power of fire in there. I have one deck with it that does pretty well because it has a Gargantodon.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. Yeah, very, very underrated Power of Fire, which is not something you hear very often. Um, but I think what it gets a total of 0.55 arc with 1.5 Amber control. But I mean, yeah, it's not uncommon to see it pulling down six and kind of batting in the effervescent principle range. Um,
Yeah. Um, Wish I didn't have the chain. Like, why the chain? It's like you're already losing a big creature. That's crazy.
yeah.
Um, how did you feel this matchup went compared to previous doppelgangers? Did this one feel more or less similar to Green Wasp?
So the other time that I played Green Wasp was closer. It felt like a little bit of a better match. I think if we played this five more times, we'd have some much closer games in there. I do think that I dodged some bullets with when the effervescent principles came, kind of relative um, to the tribute six empers, and also with getting Pocket Universe online early was kind of very helpful. Um,
That was the biggest three. Yeah, it was the Pocket Universe.
mhm.
That is just a really good counter to Graft and EP.
hmm hmm It it does a lot of work. It protects my own amber from Power of Fire. It kind of thumbs its nose at doorstep. It's kind of this very humble, unassuming artifact that serves its role well in lots of cases.
Yeah,
hmm
definitely. Yeah, I don't know if I could win 3 out of 5 of those. Maybe two. I think that's a uphill battle for Bailey.
hmm I do think Bailey has an uphill battle. I think Green Wasp is favored here. I do think Green Wasp likely is favored in most of its cases, but I mean, it's never going to be perfectly even. Um, And so
Yeah,
looking at a deck that was handpicked to try and take advantage of, well, quote unquote, take advantage of the format, like having even a third matchups be really close and others be like 60-40 ish is like pretty cool. Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
hmm Cool.
Good game next week. Maybe I'll turn my fortunes around.
All right. I dig it. So that brings us to 1-1 and then a half overall in the match uh,
Yeah.
for the good guys. For the good guys.
Mm,
Uh,
the sloppy guys.
the,
The
slop,
sloppy guys will say.
the sloppy guys indeed.
I guess we'll probably play the other half tomorrow night. I assume we'll put it on this channel here. So look out for that. See the other half of this epic conclusion to the doppelganger between the captains.
Indeed. So 90 minutes for game and discussion tonight. Probably 90 minutes for the the Southgate
For
matchup when we play it. Yeah,
key one of the
for
Southgate matchup.
key one of the Southgate. Nice.
We'll have to make sure we put the timer on for that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right. All right. then thank you, Data Forge, for tuning in too. Glad to have you here. It was fun,
Yeah.
fun times. And I don't know, parting words, closing comments.
No, I'm gonna get you tomorrow with Southgott. That's
I
all. That's
will.
all I got.
I will frantically prep between now and then.
You're gonna call off work tomorrow and keep practicing, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Cool.
All right. Good chat, JT. I will see you tomorrow.
Till then, bye, folks.